Welcome back to the next episode of Blossoms and Bourbon. I am super excited to have you here. And I gotta take just a minute to thank you. I was just completely overwhelmed with all the likes, all the comments, the subscriptions, the number of views. You guys are amazing, and I so appreciate you joining us on this journey. I gotta tell you, one thing that especially I was so excited about is so many of you showed me pictures of the arrangements that you had been working on after seeing that very first video that we did. And gosh, that means the world to me. So keep at it. It shows me that flowers are important to you, and I love that. One of the things that in getting feedback from you that I heard you wanted to know about was plants. So I decided to devote this episode to plants. We do a lot of plants here at the shop, and they are super important actually, not only as a gift, but also as a way to enrich your life. And you're kind of going, probably, how is that the case? Well, plants are awesome to have around. Much like fresh flowers are, plants actually clean the air for you. They actually can reduce your stress level. It's kind of interesting that they also are rewarding, because once you figure out that you can take care of them and that they survive, you get this really good feeling about yourself too. So that's another thing that's really cool about it. A couple of just brief pointers about watering plants and general care. Most plants that we have here in the shop come in these little plastic pots from the greenhouse. That's how you probably would buy them or receive them yourself. And then we keep them in something pretty, something decorative that you can keep and enjoy your home. So one of the tricks when you're watering your plants is to make sure that you have an opportunity for the plant, for the water to go all the way through. And that's how you know you're watering it properly, is the water starts here at the soil level and goes all the way through the bottom of the pot. Do not do that in the decorative pot, because then what you're going to have is this plant sitting in water. They are not happy when they sit in water. That really can enlist all sorts of things like root rot, and it just will help deteriorate the plant very, very quickly. So when you're watering your plant, take it out of the decorative pot, put it in your sink or bathtub or whatever, water the plant, making sure that you watch for the water to go all the way out, and wait for it to stop. You know then that all the roots are wet because the water has gone from top to bottom, and then you can put it back in the decorative pot that you keep it in. It looks beautiful, and it's now been taken care of, okay, in your home. During the warmer months, the growing season for plants, as a part of your watering regimen, you also might want to fertilize them. And you can just use any household fertilizer that you can get on the shelf at any of the big box stores. They're typically water soluble, and so you just mix them with a little water, and that becomes a part of the routine. Your plants will reward you with extra growth when you do that. So it's a nice thing to do. Pay attention to the directions on the box, and make sure that you don't over fertilize, because you can actually burn the leaves with them. There are chemicals in there. That's what enlists the new growth. But too much of that can cause the leaves to burn. You're also going to want to groom your plants from time to time. It's just like we need grooming, your plants are going to need grooming. And from time to time, you're going to see that there are going to be things like this leaf that's got a broken spot on it. So literally you just kind of pop that off with your finger, or if you're into using shears, you can use your shears to cut that off too. Just groom them so that they look good. Maybe your cat got a hold of it or something, and it doesn't look the best. So you want to just make sure that it's looking good. And also, this will help the plant, because if this leaf stayed on the plant, it's going to expend some energy keeping this leaf alive. This is not a good leaf. We don't want to keep it alive. So get rid of it. Then the plant will expend its energy, keeping the rest of it beautiful. This is something else that we do here at the shop that you can also do at home. And these are all individually potted plants that we've just grouped together into this container. Again, because they're all grouped together, I would suggest that you water them individually so that they're all meeting their individual water requirements. Some plants have different requirements than others. But yeah, it's a good look. It makes a nice, pretty little grouping, because then you can change up the textures and the colors. We've got this trailing ivy here. This is another sort of Pothos Vine. And then this peperomia for a little bit of height in the back. It's a great way to kind of get a combination look. And let me show you one more of those that I really love, is this one. I just think this is super pretty in this bowl. And so this would be great in a formal part of your house too. So not just, a casual area, but another area where you would want to keep plants in your house to enjoy the benefits of them. Let's do a quick tutorial on repotting a plant. So when you're repotting a plant, you're going to watch it to first of all make sure that you need to repot it. And it's going to tell you. There are going to be some signs that if you just watch and pay attention to, you'll know that it's time to repot the plant. One of the things is you'll not notice growth for a long time, or the leaves might start to look funny or turn a different color. Those can all be signs that you need to repot your plant. When you're going to repot it, you need to go up one size. So you don't want to jump from this size to a big 12-inch pot, because then when you put this poor little baby in that pot, it's going to spend all of its energy in the root system trying to fill out the pot. And that's what will happen in replanting scenarios, is that the roots are going to just reach out and try to find that next, period of place in the pot where it's going to rest to. And so you don't want to give it too much space. You want to just go up one size. Most pots that you're using have holes in the bottom. It really is a good idea if you're planting something with holes and using a pot with holes, because you get proper drainage. Goes back to what we were talking about a minute ago, and not letting the roots sit in water. They're not happy when they're that way. And again, that's one of the reasons that we keep decorative pots. I don't plant the plants directly in a decorative pot. I like the ability to take them out and change them around. So we're going from a 4-inch to a 6-inch pot. I'm going to just put a little level of pea gravel here in the bottom. And the pea gravel is just going to help keep the soil from washing out the bottom holes. So it's going to kind of work to stop the soil, but it's not going to stop the water. So then just taking your regular potting mix, again from your favorite store, we're going to put a little level in there first. And what we're doing with that is we're going to bring the level up to the place where the plant is accustomed. So you can see how this plant already looks like it's about at the right height. And that's an important part of the replanting process. So you have to give it a little support in the bottom. It's also better to replant these when they're a little bit dry. If they're moist, they sometimes kind of get bound up in the pots. If they're a little dry, they'll release like that and come right out. So we're going to take this one. We're just going to put it in there firmly. There's a space around, of course. So we're going to just fill that in with some more soil. My wife accuses me of planting pots too densely and too closely together when we do our bedding plants in the spring. And that's probably because I'm a little impatient. I like for things to look really full and lush pretty quick. I don't want to wait for them to have to grow. So don't be like me. Be patient, put them in the right size pot, and give them some space. All right, I'm tamping that down pretty firmly because I don't want that plant to move around too much in there once we've gotten this in place. And you don't want to get the soil all the way up to the top of the pot. You're probably way ahead of me on that, but the reason you don't, of course, is when you're pouring water in here, if the soil were all the way at the top, it would just run right off. So then we would really be not in a good scenario. This, with the soil just a little bit low below the level of the pot, lets the water sit in there, has a chance to soak in and get all those roots wet that we want. So that's essentially the easiness of repotting the plant. It's not very difficult at all. And then we're gonna have to bump up to a different size decorative pot now because this one won't fit. But choose another decorative pot, put this in that happy place in your home, and it's ready to go. I know also that as you guys were asking questions about plants, you asked for some recommendations for some plants that are easy. And I'm not particularly a green thumb myself. I'm really good with flowers. I am not so great with plants. My wife says I would never be good with orphan children or dogs because if they're not growing well, I just kind of toss them out. So you want to make sure that you're getting a plant that is something that you can handle, something that's going to work well in the environment of your home. Check the light conditions. Make sure that you have the kind of light that it requires. This particular plant is a Dracaena. It's this variety is called Janet Craig. Not sure why. Maybe Janet discovered this, but it's also known corn plant is the common term for it, and it's a very easy plant to grow. So if you want to start out with something, this is a great choice. As it matures, it does get a stalk on it, much like corn does, and these clusters of greenery kind of move up on the plant. It will actually start to get side shoots on it, and then those will also get clusters on it. So it's really beautiful. Some of them don't have this striped coloration on the leaf, but super fun. Very, very easy to take care of. Kind of bright indirect light, so you're not going to be challenged to find a really bright window for this, and it will do well. This vine is called Pothos, and Pothos is a great plant. In fact, I remember going into people's homes in the past and seeing Pothos, and it literally had these long tendrils that they had going across pieces of furniture and across their kitchen cabinets. And this one, if I can find it here, yeah, does have that already started. So you get this nice long viney tendril. I kind of wanted to tuck this in today to kind of keep it a little bit neater for what we're doing here. But this variety is called Neon, obviously from the color. It's a very easy plant to grow. It takes very minimal light conditions, so it'll grow in low light. And it does just that. It runs, it kind of gets trailing as a vine. So at some point it's beautiful, set up on a shelf, and then the trailing elements of it can come down. It's just gorgeous. One way to keep it in check though, is when those trailing elements get too long, you can just snip them off, put them in a glass of water. They will start to root in the water, and then you'll have more plants. So you can share them with your friends. And that also keeps this one kind of dense and a little more compact too. One other that I want to show you today that's super easy. This is called Sansevieria. It's more commonly called snake plant. I have also heard it referred to as mother-in-law's tongue. Not going to make any comments there, but this is a really easy plant to take. Honestly, you could just sort of have this in your house and forget about it. I do have this one in a decorative pot for watering purposes, but it requires so little water. I bet we water this here every 2 weeks, every 2.5 weeks. And a really good way to figure out when your plant needs water is with this tool that we all have called our index finger, and just plunge your finger into the dirt. If your finger goes down to the first knuckle and it feels moist, your plant's good to go. If it feels dry, you probably need to water it. So back to snake plant, great plant, very architectural, so it's very modern. It works great in modern spaces. And super easy to take care of. It's one that you're gonna love having around. Lots of different colorations and varieties available with this too. So this kind of yellowy edge is available. There's a solid green leaf that's available. And if you look inside here, this is kind of cool. I've not seen one do this before. This one is actually gonna start to bloom. And I don't know what the bloom looks like. I've never seen that do it. So it must be really happy where we're keeping it here at the shop. So come buy it so it can be happy in your house, okay? All right, one other, and then we're gonna get on to bourbon. Bunches of you have asked about orchids, and I gotta tell you, orchids are not crazy difficult. It's one of those plants that kind of gets the reputation of being difficult, but it's really not. They have a couple of very basic requirements. I'm gonna devote an entire episode to orchids. We're gonna talk about different types and how to take care of them, so I'm not gonna do that today. You're gonna have to subscribe and keep watching. But orchids are awesome, and there are definitely ways that you can get them to rebloom. I know that that's one of the issues you sometimes have. So I do hope that you'll plan on keeping plants around in your home, keep something on your desk at work. They do help clean the air. They do make you feel better. There is a real sense of accomplishment to keeping them alive. Trust me, I know that because I've done it. So I hope you'll give it a shot. And if you have any questions, you can either call us or post a question here with this video. All right, so today we are going to be tasting Widow Jane. I was fortunate enough recently to be gifted a bottle of this for my birthday from two good friends. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Roy. It was awesome. I enjoyed sharing it with you guys. This is actually a blended bourbon. And what that means is that it's actually a combination of different straight bourbons that have been blended together into this one bottle. It's kind of an interesting concept, but from what I can read in the industry, it's something that is going to be happening more because of the changes in the industry. And I guess there are only so many mash bills that you can dream up with bourbons. This is the 10-year. What I love is that they have one that's called Lucky 13 Widow Jane, which is actually a 13-year aged bourbon. And look, I'm remembering to pour you a pour tonight, Jason. There you go. So this is a blended bourbon. It does have good color. It's not super dark. It's got that nice kind of amber color to it, a little more caramelly like. Looks good in the glass. Smell. Yeah, this cinnamon. I'm getting cinnamon with that. That's pretty cool. This is one of those that I have tasted and enjoyed quite a bit. So full disclosure, I already know this one. Yeah, definitely cinnamon. And you know what's interesting? There's a little bit more heat to this one than some of the others that we've tasted. And again, going back to that tip I gave you earlier, if you like to chill it, you can put an ice cube in this and just sip on it cooled. And I do that and enjoy that sometimes. But Widow Jane is actually distilled and bottled in New York. So it's right outside of Brooklyn, I think, or maybe a suburb of Brooklyn where it's bottled. But it's a good one. I hope you'll give it a try. I'm gonna have another sip. All right. Well, folks, that concludes this episode of Blossoms and Bourbon. I hope that you've learned something today, and I hope that you'll be back with us again so that we can explore lots of options and lots of things happening in the world of Blossoms and Bourbon. Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye. Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Why did I say bye-bye?